Adam Cianciarulo was one of the most talented amateur motocross riders the sport has ever seen. From a very young age, he was labeled as the next big thing, a future that felt inevitable to everyone watching. But when success becomes your identity, winning isn't just about results. It becomes your self-worth. While Adam was one of the most talented riders to ever line up on the gate, his professional career was shaped by injuries, setbacks, and moments of bad luck that kept him from fully realizing the future that many expected. And in that process, he didn't just lose races and championships. He lost pieces of who he thought he was. What makes this conversation so powerful isn't what Adam accomplished on a motorcycle, but what he discovered when everything was stripped away. It's about learning who you really are and what it means to step into the next chapter of life with acceptance, clarity, and purpose. I'm so grateful for this beautiful conversation with Adam Cianciarulo. Now let's dive in. Foreign Rider is my favorite apparel brand, hands down. Founded by my friend Ralph Dunning, a pioneer in the apparel industry with over 30 years of experience, he built this company for people like us, riders, explorers, creators, those who live active lives and need gear that can keep up. When I'm training, I wear the Odyssey collection. It keeps me cool, dry, and performing better for longer. When I'm traveling or just relaxing at home, the Solace collection is my go-to for unmatched comfort. But the real standout for me is the Merino base layers. They keep you warm, dry, and feeling perfect under a waxed canvas jacket for those cooler rides. And when it's hot, like it is here in Florida, the Odyssey long sleeve tee keeps me super cool and comfortable all day long. The fit, the feel, the quality of these products is on another level. And that's why I literally wear them every single day. Foreign Rider isn't just clothing, it's a mindset. A reminder to live with intention, to choose quality over quantity, and the exploration of freedom, whatever freedom means to you. Check out the full collection at foreignrider.com. Once you wear it, there's no going back. Welcome to Ride Beyond, where we go beyond the ride and into what matters. In this podcast, you'll find meaningful conversations with people who live with passion, chase freedom, and remind us what it means to live fully. The motorcycle is our connection, but the stories are what take us beyond. Are you on a golf course here?
I am, yeah.
That's sick. I'm sure you love that.
Oh, dude. I had moved to this place called Bella Colina in Florida, like my first couple years on 450s. I made the full-time move out here at the end of 2021. And I had a townhouse like 10 minutes from here, but I had been a member at this course since like right before COVID. And I always wanted a spot in here, particularly on this side of the neighborhood, and nothing was opening up at all. Finally, I think summer of 2023, I moved in here. Yeah, got a golf cart, rip around. But I tell my friends, like, I shot 100 the other day on my course. Like, I should be better now that I'm retired, now that I have more time.
Feel better.
Yeah, but dude, golf is it's a tough game.
I'm like a 90s player.
Yeah,
so,
that's fine.
But it's fun.
It is.
I'm happy when I can break 100. I mean, I feel like, honestly, it's kind of crazy. Like, there's a crazy statistic. It's like half of all golfers never break 100.
Yeah,
or something
even
like that.
more than that, I think.
More.
Yeah.
So,
dude, it's a tough game.
It's tough.
It's a tough game, but it's cool out here. Like, we have different tournaments like every other week, and it's just a good sense of community, and we all play pickleball, and it's a good time.
Speaking of golf, I saw you played Jordan's spot, Grove 23.
Yeah.
How sick is that?
Oh, it's unreal.
I got to go there for like a creative project I was doing for like this golf brand. Actually, this company that sponsors me, Foreign Rider, they make like performance apparel that we were shooting a film there. We got to play a couple rounds at the course.
No way.
What a crazy experience when you're like on the course and like Michael Jordan's there playing on a different hole, and like McElroy's like teeing off, and like Ricky Fowler, who you're friends with, is like out there at the driving range.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this place?
The last time I was there, I had this idea with Cobra to shoot a kind of a 9 with 9 series is what we were going to call it. And Ricky agreed to do it with me. And so I literally flew in like the night before, woke up, played 9 with him. But I remember, going over to the range, and like Keegan Bradley was the only other person on the range, like 2 stalls next to me. I'm looking down at the ball. I'm like, don't shake it, man.
Yeah.
Don't shake it. Like, this is It's a pristine course. Like you got to pull it together. You got to pull it together. But, um,
Same.
yeah, it's crazy, dude. I'm less nervous in front of 50,000 people at Anaheim than on the first tee in front of Ricky and
Michael Jordan.
everybody else. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Anyways, yeah, let's talk about motocross, dude. I have been following you since you were a little kid on 50s, like jumping stuff that no other 50 rider would jump, seeing you on like Mini Warriors and all the movies growing up. And I mean, you were pretty much one of the biggest amateur prospects that the sport has ever seen. What was your life like as a young kid growing up in this sport?
That's a man.
That's a loaded question.
That's a loaded question. That's you know, I think I ask myself that question quite a bit these days, to be honest with you. Um, in one regard, it was incredibly exciting. Like the fact that I've told the story before, but my dad or nobody knew dirt bikes. Nobody was into sports. Even in my family, there's not a bunch of athletes or just normal run of the mill people.
Your dad
And
didn't ride?
no, he didn't. No, I just, I saw it on TV, got a bike for my third birthday. I remember looking back because even going to amateur races these days, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like, what is talent? What is somebody that's really good look like at 5 or 6 years old or on PWs or whatever? I remember a couple of years ago, I found this old home video of me riding a PW50 in a field. And I was like, I mean, it was only 6 months after I started riding. I'm like wide open doing knacks off the side of the bike, like on a straightaway. I don't know. I guess I was just nuts, which is weird because I've always been like a thinker, kind of not intellectual in a way that I could have gone to Harvard or something, but just there's some things in my personality that don't really line up. But yeah, as soon as I got on a bike, it was natural. And it turned into something I think that none of us expected. It got real quick, and honestly, so many good memories. I wouldn't change any of it, but it definitely had its challenges for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you to be at the level that you were at and chasing it with the intention that you guys were, you pretty much have to give up everything else that comes with being a normal kid. Like riding dirt bikes is your life. Like you're not going to school and making those normal friends and going to the dance and getting in trouble and going to parties, and like you kind of skipped the normal adolescent experience and you're chasing something super unique and different.
Yeah, and I think it's I think you have to look at it like an opportunity, but as a kid, you don't know that. Like you don't know what you're choosing. When I was like, Mom, I don't want to go to, I don't want to go back to 6th grade or 7th grade. And you don't really know what you're doing at the time. But one thing I did know is that I wanted to win dirt bike races more than anything else, man. Like that was, it was my entire existence. I mean, I loved it. And if I wasn't riding, I was watching videos of MC or RC, and like I've always just been a student of the game. I've always loved it. And yeah, it was crazy. I look back at my amateur career and it's I don't know. It's not like, maybe people from the outside would think that it looked like it was just the funnest thing ever because you're winning. You look like you're just this rock star, invincible and all this. But I never really looked at amateur racing as an accomplishment in itself. Like my mind was always on the future. My mind was, if I was doing good on 50s, somebody was telling me I wasn't going to be good on 65. So I just wanted to be good on 65s. And the same thing with 80s, and same thing going in the 250 class. So it was always I was always playing the long game. I mean, since I was 9 or 10 years old, I was like, at the time, like I knew that I was going to be, winning supercrosses one day. And so my mindset was never like, oh man, yeah, I just, it was cool to win, don't get me wrong, but I was never like, oh man, I just dominated Loretta's. Like, I'm the man. Um, if anything, I felt like in my head, I had to prove it to myself every time I raced that I was the best guy. I don't know, wasn't cocky like that.
I think that's pretty unique as a young kid to be like looking so far into the future, because most kids are just living for the next weekend. Like, I want to win the next race, where you're thinking about like, I guess, what was your vision for the future at that age? Where did you see your career going?
I think that where did I see it going? I mean, as a kid, like I said, I saw myself winning supercross races. I saw myself doing all that stuff, but I think there was still always a little bit of doubt in the back of my head is, can I really do this? Am I really as good as they say I am? And I'm not going to lie, it was a lot. For sure. It was a lot. I remember when I think it might've been 2005 or something, Motocross Action or one of those magazines came out with some article that was like, Cianciarulo, or what is it? McGrath, Carmichael, Stewart, Cianciarulo, ? And I'm like, just this kid on a 50 out there ripping. So it was tough to carry that. I felt that. I've always been like a very aware person. I would say too aware for my own good at times, especially in the sport and actually being on the motorcycle. And so that was a lot. That was a lot to carry. It definitely molded me into the person that I am now.
It is a lot of pressure to carry as a young kid, with the expectation that you're going to go down as one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Like, dude, how do you process that as a young kid? Just trying to do your best on the weekend and chase your passion.
I think another aspect of it was that I was really good when I was really young. So all the sponsors, everything came with that very young. So I think a lot of people think I came from a lot of money and things like that. And I think in my head, once I had all that support, of course, Team Green, I signed with them in 2004. My dad was willing to take the time and coach me and take me all around to be where I needed to go. And so in my head, and I think in some other people's heads, it was like, why wouldn't he win? Right? It didn't feel like much of it didn't really feel like much of an accomplishment for me. It's like, and that's just how you process it.
It's kind of a gnarly place to be, to be like you win and it's expected. If you get second, then it's a disappointment. So like, you're setting yourself up. There's almost like no personal win, because like winning is just the standard. That's kind of not the best place to be. It's already so hard to win in this sport. There's 40 riders on the gate. One person is going to win. 39 people are not going to win. Your expectation is to be that one person, and that's just the expectation. And if you finish second, that's a loss.
Yeah.
That's so gnarly.
Yeah. And as an amateur, it wasn't about just winning. Like, if I won and the guy was 10 seconds behind me, I might as well got 10. Like, it needed to be 30 seconds or a minute or, because I think in my head too, when you start off so well on mini bikes, you don't want your value to start going the other way before it really matters, right? So if it looks like all these kids are catching up to me, that was kind of what I was paranoid about, right? But of course, as you get older, the gap's just tight. I mean, that's just the way it goes. So, but the one thing I will say that I think it did teach me was to try to get the most out of myself always, because it wasn't really about if I crossed the finish line first. It was about what I was doing on the track, and was that going to translate to the next level, or was that a sustainable way to ride the motorcycle? So it taught me to just be my own benchmark, I guess, which I think is a good metaphor for life in general.
Mm-hmm. And then like you said, reaching success at a super young age and gaining so much attention. You got a lot of support at a really young age. So like, this thing that started out as like a gift to you, like this motorcycle, as like something fun for your family to do, became like serious all of a sudden. And then all of a sudden, like, there's like money involved and you're chasing wins and sponsorships, and suddenly it's almost like a business.
Yeah.
What was like the family dynamic like as a kid? Because it's probably not easy to balance, like, you know, being a kid, trying to reach your potential and like do this as a fun thing that you enjoy with your family versus like a business and chasing like your potential for the future. And like it must create kind of an interesting family dynamic there.
It was, that's another topic that's like, it's tough to, it's honestly, it's kind of tough to talk about a bit. Um, but I think that, yeah, I think the hardest part about it all for me was kind of being an aware kid. And I've talked about this before, but just being aware of how much responsibility you have. I mean, I started off riding a motorcycle because I loved it. And of course, you want to do well, but it's really, I just loved dirt bikes. I love being at the track, love being with my friends and all this. And you go out there and you're good and you kind of set this expectation for yourself. And I remember being like 12 years old. I just signed with Pro Circuit. We're driving out in the motorhome like every few months, just staying in the parking lot at Pro Circuit, like just my dad and I. And you're sitting there and you're like, my sister's at home, you're a couple years younger than me. My mom's at home. My dad's with me for months at a time. And being aware of that as a kid and how much responsibility that that was. Yeah. And, there was times where I think I internalized a lot of that. And there were times where I wanted to explode, man. Like I didn't know, because my dad and my mom, my parents, everybody had sacrificed so much for me to get there. Like, who am I going to be to complain about this responsibility? Because ultimately it is an opportunity. And so, yeah, it's a difficult place to be. And that's what I talk about. Those are the things that have made me who I am now. Is just sitting there and knowing that at 12 years old, that if you don't make it, like if you don't go and do something in this sport that, reflects this massive opportunity that you have, this massive financial commitment for your family, like you could be in ruin. You could ruin your whole trajectory of your entire family, essentially. So that's definitely a lot to deal with as a kid, but I think that I don't know, got to it. I stared it in the face and was like, this is where I'm at. And what I always tell people is that my love for dirt bikes, I think, carried me through all that, because trust me, man, there was plenty of times where I was this close to being done. Like there's plenty of days where I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. I can't, because there's also a lot of really unhealthy narratives kind of in my head. Once you start, when nothing is ever good enough, I think when nothing is ever good enough, like in my own head, like I was winning these races and I was the best amateur ever. And I don't think that I really thought I was much, to be honest. Like it wasn't like, oh dude, I'm
Because the
sick.
expectation was so high.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's just how I am as well, just pretty hard on myself, So, like I said, always had to prove it every time I went out.
Yeah. Dude, that's a lot of weight to carry as a kid. And most kids aren't that aware of their situation. I think a lot of kids don't recognize the sacrifice that the family's putting in. You're just living in the moment and enjoying it. I think as a kid who the industry is putting this expectation on you that you are going to be the next greatest of all time. And you have the awareness that your family is sacrificing everything to get you there. And it's all on your shoulders to win, and not only win, but be dominant and be this figure for the industry to like reach this goal that you're chasing. That's so intense. Were your parents, did they like help alleviate that pressure? Or was there like pressure from within your family? Like we need to perform, or was it like, just do your best and whatever happens, happens?
Yeah, there was definitely pressure there. My dad, My dad, I'll say this, he knows this, like, he knows he made some mistakes.
You get caught up in the heat of the moment
Yeah, and
with everything you're sacrificing as a parent. You see like moto dads get really upset
for
a
sure.
lot because of how much they put in. And
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
no, no. I don't have a child yet, but I see it all the time, and I can't know what that's like. I imagine it's gotta be harder than anything. But one thing I will say about my dad is that for right or for wrong, everything that he did, ultimately, he did just care about me and my success, and he did that the way that he knew how to. And, that I think there were definitely things that were tough as a kid, and especially just my personality type, kind of just being a thinker, being more introspective. I'm not really the guy that, you're gonna really, kind of yell at or get onto, and I'm gonna fire me up. Maybe that worked when I was 8 or 9 or 10, but stopped working at a certain point. But there was definitely, my I would say that my dad didn't alleviate that pressure by any means. I'm sure he felt it as well because he's making this big sacrifice, right? And none of my other family, they don't know what this little sport is. So he's going out kind of on a limb as well. And he just wanted me to succeed. And he wasn't gonna leave anything on the table. He wasn't gonna say my son didn't make it because I wasn't willing to do this. So um yeah, so as much as I say there are things that I wish could have been different that would have made my life a little bit easier, I think. But he was trying his best, and that's really all we can do at the end
Yeah.
of the day, right?
I feel like there's two sides to that coin too, because I think these days people are really quick to like focus on like trauma and the things that our parents give us that affect us negatively. But you also like on the flip side of that coin, like when your parents push you and they're hard on you while it might be stressful as a kid, that could be the reason that you are shaped into an adult that is driven and disciplined and like reaches your goals into adulthood. And I think people quickly overlook the positives of like tough parenting,
Yeah.
and they don't credit their success for like the way they were raised, and we're very quick to just focus on the negatives. I think like a lot of the most successful people in the world and in history had like tough
Oh,
upbringings,
yeah.
tough parenting. And yeah, it messes you up in some ways, but at the same time, it shapes a resilient, driven human who's willing to work for what they need to do to reach their goals. And I think that's often overlooked.
I agree
Yeah.
100%. Like, I think that for sure that he was, and there's stuff that will always stay in the family and stay with me. But, there were things that were over the top, no doubt. But I'd be the first guy. I was just talking to my girlfriend about this. Like, I'm not going to be the guy that got, parented really hard, really strict. And so now my kids are just going to run around and do whatever they want. And I'm going to be the best friend all the time. Like, you absolutely 100%. There's gotta be some tough love there, and you gotta be pushed because as a kid, you just don't know.
It's good for them.
Yeah, you just don't know. And of course there's a healthy way to do it, but I totally believe in that. Like, there were times, where he did really help get the most out of me when I didn't think it was in there myself, right? So, yeah, it was tough. It was tough, but at the end of the day, it's like it's a tough sport, man. It's hard to make it. It's hard to make it.
As someone who's been pushing hard my entire life, as a writer, a creative, and an entrepreneur, I've learned that performance isn't just about effort. It's about recovery, clarity, and taking care of your body. That's why I've made wellness a top priority. And one thing that stayed most consistent in my routine is the Echo Flask, a water bottle that infuses your water with molecular hydrogen, improving cognitive function, reducing oxidative stress, increasing natural energy, aiding in muscle recovery, and boosting mitochondrial function, which means longevity and vitality so that I can continue doing what I love to do for life. And you get all of this without the crash, inflammation, and long-term damage of the toxic, sugary energy drinks that dominate our industry. Now I know what you might be thinking. Doesn't water already have hydrogen? Technically, yes, but it's bound to oxygen as H2O. Your body can't absorb it in the same way. So the Echo Flask uses a high-end electrolysis membrane to split the hydrogen from oxygen and infuse the unbound molecular hydrogen into the water, making it more bioavailable and incredibly powerful for your health. This isn't woo-woo stuff. It's science, with over 1,500 studies behind it and more than 20 years of research. It's been a game changer for me. And if you care about longevity and performing at your best, this is completely worth it. Grab your Echo Flask now at echowater.com/ridebeyond and receive a special discount just for listeners of this show. That's echowater.com/RIDEBYND. What was it like leaving your amateur career as you were turning pro with these enormous expectations on your shoulders? What was that period of life like for you?
Well, I think that think is like a devil and angel on my shoulder a little bit. I think that, when I looked at the footage of me riding, or I looked at my accomplishments, the angel on my shoulder was like, you can do this. You can live up to this expectation. Like I knew that was in there, but there was also this doubt. I always had this lingering doubt in my head. I think it was intense. I think my dad and I both worked with the sense of urgency that matched that expectation. I remember in the off season going into I'd raced some outdoors, going into 14 Supercross. Remember I showed up and I think at the time it was like Dean Wilson, Blake Baggett, Martin Davalos, Justin Hill. These guys were really good. Remember going to Glen Helen Pro Circuit test track, and I didn't really know how to go through whoops yet, like big whoops especially. And anybody knows Glen Helen Supercross track, Randy Meninga is going to build you some big whoops. I remember going down there. I'm 125 pounds. And I wore one of those like Nitro Circus, like body protectors.
That's smart.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It looked like I had football pads on, basically. And I remember just going through the whoops over and over and over again. And I don't think, I look back now and I don't think my dad or I, either of us really knew exactly the perfect technique to go through the whoops. All we knew for sure is that you had to come in fast. And so that just speaks to the commitment level. Like we would go down there and I would do the whoops over and over again and click fifth and hold it wide open and just stack myself up and get up and do it again and keep going. So it was just a lot of intensity, a lot of urgency. And I think when I look back now, of course, it worked out great. Like that season, of course. But I think what made it so difficult for me was, again, being so aware of the expectation. And growing up, like I was naturally kind of a people pleaser anyway. Like I didn't want to let down, Brian Holiday and Team Green and Kawasaki and Mitch and my family and all this kind of stuff. That was too much. There was too much of that in my head. And I think that's what made it, the most difficult. But at the same time, I think a little bit of desperation is good sometimes.
Yeah. That was a tougher time too, because there wasn't like the amateur Supercross, and like as a kid, you didn't really get that Supercross experience. Like you're talking about learning the whoops. Now all these kids have been riding Supercross their entire life.
Yeah.
There's like amateur races dedicated to grooming these kids to be prepared for Supercross. You guys didn't have that experience. So you would show up with the pros who've been doing it for years, and like you have no Supercross experience.
Well, I will say that I was probably one of the first guys that was able to have some Supercross experience as an amateur. The US Open, which used to be like the top 10 or 20 kids from Loretta's, I think it was like the 12 to 13 mod class or something, went to the US Open. I remember I did that in 2009. I went to the Cowie track with RV, and so I got a little bit of experience there. And then Monster Cup came around in 2011. I raced on a Super Mini, rode Supercross before that. Same thing in 2012. So smaller sample size. It was always, a couple weeks at a time leading into the event. But yeah, you do bring up a great point. Now everybody, and you could tell, man, like watching the 65 kids, at some of the playoff races, 85 kids, dude, they're unreal, way better than we were back in the day.
Totally. So you had your transition to pros. It started off really well. You were moving in the right direction, started, winning races and looking like the Adam Cianciarulo we expected was going to be the Adam Cianciarulo we're going to see into the future. And then it seemed like you got cursed, man. Like suddenly the bad luck started happening. The injuries started happening. Once you started getting these injuries and bad luck, what did that feel like to you?
I mean, I guess it felt like dying a little bit. You go from, I always had like this schedule kind of in my head of the things that I wanted to do, by the time I was this age, or by what I wanted to do in my 250 career, and always wanted to be ahead of schedule, right? So most guys win the Supercross title in their second year. Like I wanted to do it in the first year. Most guys win the outdoor title in their second year. I wanted to do stuff like that. And so, yeah, Supercross went, it's crazy because I was so slow going into that season, really slow. I remember Martin Davalos, who raced East Coast with me that year, he was trying to help me out at the test track, like the week before I won Dallas, because I still could not get through the whoops. I could barely ride a dragon's back. But I was always like that. You put me on a gate and I'm at the race. Most of the time, if I'm healthy, I could figure it out. Yeah. And it just happened. I mean, I was sick coming into that first race. Didn't have like a whole lot of confidence. I wasn't like, yeah, dude, I'm here to take over. It happened. I went out there. I was good in practice. I got good starts, and it was crazy how quick it all came back. As soon as I saw the front of the race, I never questioned that in my head. That's one thing about me, is like as introspective as I am in certain aspects of my life, when I'm on the motorcycle, it's always been pretty easy for me to shut everything out and do what I do. It's like two different worlds. And so, yeah, I mean, I think once I won that race in Dallas, I was like, it's amateurs all over again. And because I had gone pro in 2013, done some outdoors, kind of got my butt kicked. I was too small. I wasn't fit enough. But yeah, I was right where I guess, right where I always wanted to be. Thought that I was ahead of schedule. I think I had like a 15-point lead or something with a couple of rounds to go. And then, then the injuries started coming. And actually, it's funny that everybody thinks that I tore my shoulder and dislocated my shoulder in Toronto in practice. But I'd actually torn my labrum in my rotator cuff in the off season doing pull-ups. Like I had to do this 5 sets of 20 pull-ups, and I was, me back then, I was like a little guy, right? And so I had to take a few weeks off in the off season, but the shoulder was never really right after that.
You were kind of dealing with that through the whole season.
Yeah, I was.
Wow.
And then, yeah, it was a tough moment, man. That was a really tough moment.
It was tough as a fan, because I had been watching you for so long and really, really excited to see this career unfold. And I was like, it's really going the way, this is going to be so incredible to watch this championship happen. And then I felt so heartbroken for you when you got hurt, but I thought, you would heal up and resume as normal.
Yeah.
What did it feel like to just keep getting knocked down? I've seen it with a lot of riders. There's the Trey Canards, and you just see a few of these different people that have so much potential, but you get this curse, man, and it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
What did it feel like?
I mean, it hurt, man. It hurt.
You worked so hard for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I think that I internalized a lot. Of course, I felt the pain of the moment, but I think I internalized a lot of it. I think I kind of buried it because I knew that if I just sat there and was depressed about it, the likelihood of me getting back to that point was going to be greatly diminished. So I think for me, I just bought my first house in Claremont. I was training with Eldon and RV and all those guys. And I don't know, I think I just got back to work. But looking back now, I just see that there was too much of this sense of desperation that I had to do it all now from myself, from trainers, coaches, dad. It was all this needs to happen right now. And we could have gone about it more thoughtfully. I think there's a few things that we could have changed, but hindsight's 2020, right?
You have the wisdom you have now. You could have been a little more patient.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really difficult. It was really difficult to go through that. You're watching guys that you raced your whole life. They're doing really well. You wish that was you. It was really difficult. Yeah. Cause I was always the guy, and I don't know. I think as much as I had doubt, I think I just assumed that it was going to work out because it always worked out for me, for the most part. The things weren't perfect. But it's difficult. And I think what adversity introduces a man to himself, I think that I had absolutely no idea who I was whatsoever before any of that happened. And I think that was the process of me kind of starting to find myself. I always tell people if that never happened, the shoulder never comes out in Toronto, I win that title, I probably go on to win more and more, and it steamrolls, and that's just how it works. If that were to happen, I'm sure, knowing me, that I would have found myself and found the best version of myself at some point, but it wouldn't have been anytime soon, man, because all these beliefs that I had, unhealthy beliefs I had about myself or just my worldview in general, when you go out there and you have success, all that's doing is reinforcing those things, telling you that you're right, you're on the right track. So that's how I look at it now,
Like hitting rock bottom is it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
It's so important to gaining that perspective to see what really matters, who you really are, what's important in this life. What was that rock bottom moment for you? Can you put yourself in? Was it after getting knocked down several times, and was there like a specific time that you reached your lowest point?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. There was a few of them, there's a few moments like that, but I think let's not also make it too dramatic too, because sports in general, man, like you could go on Instagram right now and just look at the latest NFL news, and there's 15 rock bottoms in there. Like sports, anything that you give so much of yourself to, and you can work hard and do everything right. Nothing is guaranteed in this life. Nothing's owed in this life. So it happens, right? It's not, yeah, I'm not special or different. It's, but specifically, I didn't think I could get any lower than when I lost that championship in Toronto, But I think when I had kind of clawed my way back, took me a couple of years, but my last year on 250 in 19, won a lot of Supercross races, blew the title at Vegas. That sucked. That was another one like Toronto, felt about the same, pretty bad. But came back, cool story, won the outdoor title, got a factory 450 ride, won Monster Cup. So things were starting to, there had already been 10 of those rock bottom moments where I'm like, it's never happening for me. That sports left me behind, in these key formative years. I wasn't doing, most of the time I was on the couch. So I think to prove to myself that I could get back, and I was kind of in prime position to make a run, and maybe even I look back to 2020, no matter how I played it, I think those early struggles, the early injuries, I think they knock some percentage points off your true potential.
Yeah, 100%.
So
you lose your momentum.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I came into the pros and had everything gone pretty smoothly, I think I could have been way, way better than I ever was. But I think with what I went through and where I got back to in 2020, I was already pretty stoked to be where I was there, being a front runner in the 450 class. And I think even going into that season, I was dealing with the nerve damage in my arm, right? And there were a lot of times, even those races, getting second in Anaheim, second in San Diego, where it was bothering me, feels kind of like arm pump. I kind of just ignored it, assumed it was arm pump. And that started to become a problem. And that started to lead to other injuries. 2021, Orlando, I broke my collarbone. And I think this is true rock bottom. I did some outdoors that year after I got my collarbone fixed, decided to go to the Stedman Clinic in Colorado to try to do another surgery to fix my arm, and came back getting ready for 2022 season. Jason Anderson was my new teammate. I just remember going faster than I ever had in my life. I was still dealing with my arm. It honestly wasn't any different, but I'm like, we just got to figure out how to ride with it, trying a bunch of different things. And I remember like a week before Christmas, I was going through the whoops, like fourth gear wide open. My hand just slipped off the bar. And I had one of the biggest crashes of my life, scared me half to death. Like I was holding on as tight as it wasn't like a massive technical error on my end. I didn't do anything it's not like the bike got really sideways, then the bar ripped out of my hand. I mean, I was just kind of on the bike and just slid off, and that was it. I ended up doing a grade 3 AC separation of my shoulder going into that year. And this year I was finally like, okay, this, I think mentally I had what I needed to kind of help overcome this and at least get the most out of myself. I don't know if that was a guy that could go out there and win 5 races. But I definitely could have been up in it for sure. And then, decided to gut out the first couple races with the shoulder, did okay, still had some speed, but then went to San Diego, got out of control in the whoops, had no strength, hand, shoulder, all that, and then tore my ACL. And then at that point, it was the last year of my contract with Kawasaki. And I thought, no way in hell are these guys re-signing me. Like, I wouldn't re-sign me. And that moment, I think for me, in my head, I think I started to believe that the ship was kind of starting to sail a little bit. And this is after, I am stubborn as they come in. I am not one to throw in the towel by any means. And I didn't throw in the towel. I didn't just sit on the couch all day, I still did everything that I could. But in my mind, I was like, you got Jet coming in now. Chase is on the way up. I had to be even better than I was. And I thought, I'd already done everything I could to get there. And now it was just a lot to deal with. I really did spiral into like this massive depression. And as much stuff as I had always gone through, like, dude, I'm like very happy-go-lucky dude. Like something terrible can happen to me, and 2 days later, I wake up and I just get on with it. I've always been built like that. Like even looking back through all those rock bottoms that I had, they were very short. It was right back to it. You just keep living. That's just what you do. But this was different. This was, oh my gosh, this is the end of my career.
It's everything you worked for your entire life.
My entire life.
Yeah.
And just the amount of pain and everything that I had to push through and go through to get back to, where I was in 2020, 2021, going into 2022, to just see all that kind of fall apart. I think it like broke something in me, and I think I felt wronged by that. I think we've all been there at a certain point where it's like, why is this happening?
It must be so demoralizing to like, you clearly had the speed and the talent. Like as someone watching you ride, like it's clear that you should be winning races and championships. And like many times you're the fastest guy on the track. And like when you're on it, it looks flawless. And I'm like, okay, this dude's, but not knowing about this like underlying condition you're dealing with that's making you feel sketchy and crash and probably like takes a hit on your confidence.
Yeah.
It must be a hard pill to swallow that like you're putting the work in and day out. You have the talent, you have the speed, you can do it, but there's this thing that's limiting you that you can't control. It must be so frustrating.
It was. It was frustrating. And I hated it for the team. I hated it for Cowie, all these people that put so much time into me. And I can't even look them in the eye and tell them what's wrong. There's no doctor I can find that says this is, some guys will say, oh, we think it's this or we think it's that. But also, yeah, I mean, you could look at it from an angle like it's just this one big elaborate hoax. Like maybe the guy just doesn't want to race dirt bikes anymore, right? So it was really frustrating. But I think more in that moment too. I think that really exposed the gaps in my own self as a person, because I was always so wrapped up in results. Going back to the childhood thing, I was so, if I wasn't okay with myself if I wasn't doing well.
You put your self-worth in your race results.
I felt terrible. And it bled into it is so funny, dude. Like, I just had no idea how to be like an adult. Like I didn't even really know how to be like social with other people. Cause I don't know, maybe it's cause internalizing all those expectations and it kind of makes you feel like it's you kind of versus everyone else. I don't know what it was, but I really, during that time, kind of beginning part of 2022, career's looking like it's not going great, really isolated myself from my friends and family. And that was true sustained rock bottom for a long time, even going in racing in 2023. I mean, I've talked about it before, but that was true rock bottom right there in the start of, call it March 2022 to maybe halfway through 2023. Those were some really tough times. Yeah,
well, really dude, tough times. It was ingrained in you since you were a young kid that your value as a person, as a human, depends on race results, which is so absurd to think about. But like, that's what's been ingrained in you. And it probably took some time and through this experience to realize that, like, no, my value as a person is not based on how I finish in this race. It's other things. It's my relationships with people and like, the value I bring to the world. How did you climb out of this dark spot and like rebuild back to like a positive life?
Well, what's crazy is I always compared myself to everybody's expectations that I'm going to be Ricky Carmichael. You take that out of it. You take those expectations out of it and you look at what I did on a dirt bike. You're like, these guys that I golf with that kind of know, they know what I did and they know who I am, but they're not motocross diehards, right? These people, they look at me like like
Legend.
this very successful, and it's
that's what's crazy.
Right? And I'm like, but because you're comparing yourself against this, like, oh, I had to be the best ever. And of course, like, I wish that happened.
Yeah.
Like, even though in the same breath, I say, I wish that happened. I don't, because I truly love where I am now. But as a racer, as somebody that just loves to win, gosh, of course, like, I loved winning. I wish I would have done more of it. But going through that time in 2022, rock bottom, nobody around, feeling like the loneliest person on the planet, you really start to figure these things out. And you're like, you look at it from a little bit of a different angle. And I'm sitting there thinking how unfair this all is. And I'm like, look at my life, dude. Look at what I have. Look at what I can do. Like, honestly, how dare you? Like, how dare you be like, why, God? Yeah. When you look around and, I accomplished some of my wildest dreams. And like I told you, I'm a stubborn guy. Maybe all those things, maybe it seemed like a little overkill to me at the time, but maybe all that had to happen to get me to really look in the mirror and really figure out what matters.
Well, you're living in a bubble. You're in this industry. You're in this world that you've been you've got your blinders on. You've had this one vision for so long.
Yeah, totally.
I think when you take all that away and you just look at like life as a human, and like everybody's out here struggling, and like on balance, like I'm doing pretty damn good. My life has been really cool. I've been very successful. I've made money. I've won races. Like I've made a big impact in this industry. Like overall, it's a win, you know?
Who in the hell makes money riding dirt bikes, dude? Like we think in our bubble, like we see this and maybe in our bubble it feels like 50% or 40%, but for any kid just starting out on a dirt bike like I did, like to think of making millions of dollars and traveling the world and winning races at the highest level, the odds are stacked against you, you know? So it was a bit of course, it's like what you think your life's going to be. And I think there's a little part of you that has to mourn what you thought, the vision that you had for your own life. But the vision that I have for the way that I look at it in my faith, the vision that I have for my own life, I cannot see. I cannot see like God can see. I can't. So I have complete trust in that.
So when did the decision to retire enter your mind? Was it just due to the ongoing struggles with your arm?
Yeah.
And then when you finally made that choice that you're going to retire, what did that feel like to you?
It was a relief because I'm not a good quitter. Most of us aren't. But I really think that it was, from my perspective, once you're used to winning or battling for podiums, animating the race, being at the front of the race, I thought that it wasn't going to be realistic for me to get back to that level with my injury. And really not just my hand at this point, it's my shoulders as well. My shoulders were deteriorated from all those surgeries I had early in my career. So in general, my strength on the motorcycle, the strength that you have to have on a 450 in Supercross and outdoors, you got to have a lot of it. You got to be able to keep the thing on the tracks. And I think it became a safety issue for me. It's like, if I cannot go out there and have a chance to win, have a chance to be on the podium, have a chance to win a championship, why am I risking all this? Like, there's, of course, the other part of me wanted to just keep trying for forever and ever, but this nerve damage had already sent me to the hospital so many times. I'm thinking to myself, when's it going to be the last time? Like, you know, and it was hard. It was really hard to get to a place to feel at peace with that, because, everybody wants to go out on their own terms. But I didn't want to stick around. I think I could have probably got a ride at a lower level team. Prado was coming in and taking my spot at the end of 24. But I just didn't have any interest in going out there and risking it for a ceiling of being a 8th place guy. And not that there's anything wrong with that at all. Those guys are bad dudes. It's hard to get 8th. It's hard to make a main. But just being used to winning, I thought to myself, I'd always been very motivated to be David Bailey. Like, I wanted to be the voice of Supercross. Like, I wanted to be a broadcaster. Even that first year I got hurt in 14, I was 17 years old. Like, I was in the booth with Ralph and Jeff. I always wanted to do that. So I thought to myself, okay, it's just time to, it really was just waking up one morning. Prado got into me at A1 in 24, first round, last corner. I joke about it with him now, but he was trying to pass me for like 12th or something, and he broke my good hand, man. I'm like, Ryan was about it. He broke my good hand. And I rode the next weekend. It was San Francisco. It was super muddy, so it was easy to kind of get through that. But I came to A2. Track was pretty techy, and I couldn't ride. I had, broken hand, couldn't do it. And I think right there is kind of when in my head,
straw that
I'm
broke
like,
the camel's back.
Yeah, I think going into 24, think I was like, let's see how this goes. But I think I kind of knew the direction that it was heading. In the sport, just dude, it really took off. I always point back to that 2022 outdoor season with Chase and Eli. I don't think the sport has been the same since then. And you had Jet coming into the 450s in 23. Everything it just took more risks. You would have to go faster. It really blew up. And I thought to myself, it's a good time to bow out and, to move on. It was tough, man. It was really difficult because as much as there's of course, there was some anger and like some bitterness that, gosh, I just wish that I never really felt like I got to experience my prime. Like I made my way all the way back there, got factory Kawasaki in this prime spot. I just never felt like nobody ever saw, people probably saw, I would estimate 70%, 75% of what I could do. Even my best races I've ever seen, it's 70% of, I think, what I showed. So that part of you is like, that it's easy if you're not disciplined in your mind to go back and that to piss you off. Like that's part of life,
I think everyone knows what you're going through and understands though too, like that you were battling some challenges that you had no control over. And when you made the decision to call it quits, I don't think anyone second guessed that. It's like, yeah, I get it, dude. Like I can see why. I can see that you're struggling. Like you have the potential, but you're having all these issues. Like I think anyone in your shoes would be like, all right, it's time to make a change.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like that transition, there's an identity shift that's tough too, because you're no longer Adam Cianciarulo, the Supercross racer. Now I'm Adam, something else. But I do think the commentating is like the perfect transition for you. I remember since you were a young kid, nowadays, like all the amateur kids are like media trained and like it's kind of part of their program. But back then, like kids were just kids. You were the one kid who was like well-spoken and like insightful and articulate. And even back then I was like, oh man, one day he's going to be a Supercross announcer. I thought that since you were like 10 years old, seeing interviews of you on videos and stuff. I'm like for like a little kid, he's pretty smart. So like when I've been seeing you making this transition, I'm like, well, of course that's the direction that he's going.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know why I was like that, man. I think I do think I've always like had this desire to be, maybe we all do, but just a desire to be heard. I feel like I have some pretty good things to say.
Maybe as an only child that was homeschooled, you didn't have that outlet of like,
oh, dude, one thing that always pissed me off was how other riders would talk about, oh, I'm homeschooled. Like, yeah, I don't do school, like I was going to get it at the time. Back then, homeschool is different now. If anything, people know homeschool is being more strict and harder now. But back then it's like, if you're homeschooled, like I remember all my cousins, they're like, this kid ain't doing there's no way, there's no way. But yeah, I just wanted to be, I guess I've always kind of had this thing of wanting to be what people wouldn't expect, maybe, like I always just wanted to be, I always want to be able to walk into any room and have a conversation about anything. So, yeah, I don't know how that exactly worked, but it played, it worked out for me in my career. It's cool.
In your eyes, now that you're chasing this goal of becoming a broadcaster, what do you think makes a great commentator in this sport?
What makes a great commentator in the sport? I mean, I think the storytelling, of course, and I think it really is for someone like me, and I can speak for a lot of our crew. To be honest, we were just doing our media days in Anaheim for 2 days, sitting in a room with RC, James, Weege, all these guys. And I think you have to love it, for one. It's really difficult. It's really difficult to watch the film, to pay attention to the storylines, if you're not like a little emotionally invested. And we all are. Like, we all love it. It's like, I don't know, your girlfriend or my girlfriend watching the Kardashians, or I'm using a stupid example, but it's just, it's just what we love. And so I think that is a very key component. So I think that it's an ability to, what I see when I watch Jet Lawrence ride, I see everything that's a result of my entire life in the sport, of all my experience. How can you explain to somebody that just turned on the TV for the first time or has maybe watched a few races, how can you explain everything that you know in a way that they can digest? I think that is the biggest thing. And I think a lot of these guys feel this way too. Like, I feel like I have a responsibility to tell these stories. As someone in my position, you are in charge of, you shape a lot of these narratives. Most people, there's a bunch of content and stuff during the week, but in general, probably most people are just watching the race on the weekend. And so to me, I feel like I have a responsibility to everything that I say about a rider to be as educated as possible, because,
And communicate it in a way that people can understand.
yeah,
I
exactly.
think that's such a powerful perspective that I didn't even think about, is having this deep understanding from a lifetime of experience and communicating that to the general public in a way that's easily digestible. That really is an art form in itself.
That Albert Einstein quote is, if you can't explain it
Simply.
to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself.
Yeah, if you can't explain something simply, you don't truly understand it.
And the hard part about broadcasting, and I've got myself, and if you look back at the race day live, like the first half of the year, for example, we'd be following Ken Roxon for a lap, and I would see 20 things that he's doing that it excites me, man. I'm like, I can't wait to tell these people about this and what he's doing with this right foot here or there. But you don't want to say too much. People cannot digest a bunch of stuff at one time. That's how anything works. You watch a Monday Night Football broadcast or anything, that those guys are unbelievable at it. But it's really what they say. And my broadcast coach tells me a lot is you want to come in and you kind of want to state your point and what you're saying, explain it, and then state it again. Right. So that's the way that people digest as much stuff as possible. And there's just a million, it's just like riding a dirt bike or playing golf or anything. You can never stop improving at broadcasting, and I enjoy kind of that chase that comes with it. Like, it truly excites me.
Yeah. Something to work toward and focus on. It's so cool.
Totally.
From your experience so far, if you're interviewing an athlete, what is it that makes for a good interview?
What makes for a good interview? I mean,
something I'm trying to learn as, I'm doing this as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's just being yourself. So if you're coming across in the most conversational way possible, it gives instant credibility to what you're saying. People feel like they're actually getting a glimpse into you. And I find that even throughout my career, feeling like I needed to come across a certain way at times, you go back and you watch those interviews and they just don't come across as genuine. People just want, whoever you are, they just want a glimpse of that. So, I mean, I think it's the guys that aren't afraid to be themselves, even if they're a little different.
I think it's also a genuine curiosity. Like you're asking these people questions that you genuinely want to know yourself. And it doesn't feel like there's an authenticity that comes with that people can pick up on.
Yeah.
If it feels fake, or like if your intentions are just to like further your career by getting this interview, like if I just wanted to talk to you because I wanted exposure, you would feel that.
Yeah.
But I'm like truly a fan of yours.
Yeah.
And like you can feel that. And I think having a genuine curiosity for the questions you're asking is so huge.
And who's actually taught me a lot with that, and listening is such a great skill.
Harder than you think.
It is hard. And I think because I've had the camera on me from in our own little world, like like I said earlier, I'm not special. I'm not like this big, whatever. But I do think that it's natural to get a little main character syndrome in time when you feel like people always want to hear what you have to say, right? But even in my personal life, like that's something I've been working on is just dude, just shut up and listen. Like, listen. And who's so good at that is my co-host on my podcast, Justin Brayton. Like, dude, been in a room, was just in a room with him yesterday. I'm talking to guys he hasn't seen in a long time. Doesn't matter where we are. It could be on our show. I could be rattling something off on Race Day Live and running way over the time for 3 minutes. And I look over at him and it just looks like he is hanging on every word that I say. And I'm like, dude, that is such a superpower, and that's, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've always been a decent listener, but I don't think you can ever be too good of a listener. Typically the smartest people are the ones that are listening more than they're talking, right? So, yeah, very useful skill.
It's really hard in an interview because there's this balance of just truly listening to what the guest is saying, but you're also trying to guide the conversation and think about what the next question is. And so it's this dance of like, okay, what am I going to say next? But like, I really need to engage with what's happening now and react based on that. It's a dance.
It is. Totally. I couldn't agree more. I thinking about it some more, like I think back to why have I been, you said, I've been articulate in front of the camera since I was small. I also think that there was a point in time in my career where these narratives of like who I was and like this silver spoon kid, the spoiled kid that's had everything handed to him. I think I was pretty determined that genuinely has never been me. Like I've just never been that guy. So I think that I was just genuinely determined. That bothered me. It bothered me that people thought that way about me. So I think going into my pro career a little bit, I was, even before that, like I just think I was pretty determined to be like, I'm going to show these people that I'm not that, right?
I want to take a moment to talk about my absolute favorite gear brand. I got my first set of Fox gear when I was learning to ride in 1998. Not just because it looked cool, but because it meant something to me. That Fox head was more than just a logo. It was an identity. All these years later, I'm still wearing Fox, and it still means just as much. For 50 years, Fox Racing has been chasing the edge, pushing the limits of what's possible with moto gear. From past legends to the next generation of riders, Fox has never stopped evolving. And through it all, the mission has always stayed the same: build the most advanced gear on the planet for those bold enough to push beyond the limit. I've been part of this journey since I was a kid, and I'm proud to still fly the Fox head. Go check out the latest gear at foxracing.com. So when you think back on your journey from the amateur phenom to the rising pro, to the bad luck that happened along the way, and now life after racing, obviously there's been an evolution as a human. How do you feel what parts of yourself have changed most throughout this journey? Because I feel like you're probably not the same person you were at the beginning of the journey.
What parts of myself have changed the most? I think everything has changed. I mean, everything has changed. The way that I view myself, the way that I view the world. I think I have a tattoo on my right arm that says it's a Neck Deep album. It's called Lifestyle to Get You. I have that tattooed on my arm, and just that tattoo in itself could tell you a lot about my life, really, is that I need that reminder. Like, life's not out to get you, right? I think that I grew up, I think that I lived a really lonely, pretty lonely life, right? Like, my parents wanted to do everything that I had. They wanted to give me everything. They wanted me to chase this dream and have every opportunity to chase this dream, right? But once we got, and I've always loved it and I always wanted to do it. But it's also, I'm so much more than that. Like, I'm so much more than that. But that was 99% of my life. So all that other stuff kind of just got pushed to the side, and you kind of get unbalanced personally, man. I had a really really negative view of who I was. Like from the time I was a kid, I don't know if it was the tough coaching or or kind of internalizing some of those expectations, but it really made me, and I've always been aware enough to not come across, not let these things, like, even if I was bitter, you would never know. Nobody
Mm.
would ever know if I was bitter.
You're keeping it to yourself.
Yeah, but in a way that makes it worse because stuff, the stuff gets kind of dragged out that way. But I think just the ups and downs throughout the course of my career, I think it's shown me who I am. It's changed those beliefs that I've had about myself that I'm not good enough or I'm not this or that. I just had a really negative view of myself and who I was, and it was all based on results. And if I was doing bad on the dirt bike and uh people said that I sucked, I thought that I sucked. I really let all of that outside noise completely infiltrate my head and get all wrapped up in who I was. And I never had time to develop any type of identity outside of a dirt bike. So there's going to be, you've heard these stories a million times. There's going to be a time of reckoning if that is the case. Like if your identity is that, unless it just goes perfect all the time, there's going to be a point where that's not okay and something has to change. And I think starting really, I made the most personal growth. I really stuck a lot of band-aids on it until 2022, until I saw the end of my career coming, something that I never really even imagined in my life. And I thought to myself, I really need to get to a place personally where I'm going to be okay. Because, dude, it was not good. Like, I was not happy at all. And I didn't see a path towards happiness. I was deep, and a lot of people have been there. They get it. You guys at home. Um, and I think it's just finding value in like how I treat people and the impact that I have on the community and just contributing to other people instead of it always just being about me. Like that's the
It's like
biggest
what you
thing.
can give rather than what you can get.
Now, I think that was the biggest shift and something that I actually looked forward to when I stopped racing was I was tired of being the main character all the time. And that may sound funny now that I'm on TV doing the broadcast, but I view that more as it's not about me. It's about them. It's about them. I really do feel that way, man. Like I'm not in it for me or for people to think that I'm this great broadcaster. I really want to contribute. I really want to contribute to the sport and to this community. And I think, when I look back on my career, that is how I see it now. I do not see it as this like massive success or massive failure. I see, wow, dude, you were really able to make a positive impact. And I would just want to leave things, even if it's a fraction of a centimeter, I just want to leave things better than I found it. And I think finding, it's crazy. Also, another thing, man, is just it's taught me how to desire less because I don't care what I would have done if had it gone a different way. I would have never been satisfied. Never, ever. And when you're chasing that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, that's going to make everything okay. You got something else coming, dude.
Dude,
'Cause
that's such a good
it's
point.
never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You're never going to find it. You're never going to be fulfilled. I don't know. You might get some more slaps on the ass and some more attaboys, but that's not the stuff that makes you sleep
Dude, that's
soundly
like
at night.
the deepest principle in like Buddhist monks and people who are really dedicate their life to chasing peace and happiness is just this idea of wanting less, being okay with
Desire
what
less.
you have, being content with where you are, not the grass isn't always greener, not always chasing the next thing. I think that's such a beautiful message to put out there is just want less. Be being grateful and having gratitude for what you have, where you are, the people in your life, not always chasing that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like cuz that's an endless journey. you can be a billionaire with Lamborghinis and hot girls and everything you could ever want, but you're always chasing the next thing. Like Jeff Bezos has more money than I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You never
There's
reach,
always going to be somebody with more.
you never reach the end. Being content with where you're at. Like some of the happiest people, I did a motorcycle trip through Thailand with some friends, and like we were riding through these little villages and people were living in ramshackle buildings that are built with like pieces of wood and like some scrap metal and like just little huts in the dirt, and they come out and there's dogs and chickens running around and they're waving and smiling
Laughing.
and so happy, and they have nothing, but like they're fine with what they have, and they're happy and they're surrounded by love. And I think it's just a good. And then you go to like Los Angeles and like a lot of people with a lot of money, but everyone's sitting in traffic and pissed off and, you know, not satisfied with where they're at and chasing the next thing and trying to make more money. And it's just such an important message for people to hear, you know?
And I agree 100%. And it's wired into us. We need that. We need something. I get it. To be ambitious, we need to be ambitious to create things of value in this life. We need to be motivated to get up out of bed and go and get the day, right? But it's just the why you're doing it. And to be honest with you, most of my career, why I was doing it, yeah, because I loved riding dirt bikes, but most of it was out of fear. Like fear of what I thought it meant about me if I didn't get to what I thought was success. If I didn't win these championships, the beliefs that I held about me of what that meant, I could not imagine living with that then. I did not know how I was ever going to be able to live with myself and ever smile again if I didn't reach a certain level. And it also goes back to desire and less. There were times where I had everything. I had it all. I was winning everything, and I didn't know it. I just wanted more, and I wanted more. And it's almost like God said, okay, take this away. Take this away. Take this away. And at a certain point, I go back to that 2022. It's like he took away every little crutch, every little distraction, everything from me to finally really look myself in the mirror and really be honest with myself about where I was at and all these fears of insignificance and not living like a big enough life, not making a big enough impact. And yeah, I just think that I live a life now that, you know, of course I have all these great opportunities, right? I just went to Australia for a month and I do a bunch of great things, but if people saw the way that I live day to day, I guarantee they would be surprised. I do not need much. I really don't need much to be, like you said, peace. Because that's another thing when you're chasing the dream of racing, winning races, you're chasing pleasure. And pleasure's here 1 second and gone the next. And that's why the guys get right. That's why the guys get right back to it and coming to the next year more motivated than ever to chase that fleeting moment of pleasure. And that's cool. And those are accomplishments that you'll have for the rest of your life. I'm not taking away from those accomplishments. I'm just saying when you're on your deathbed, right, it's not the things you're going to be thinking about.
Yeah. I mean, that was really powerful the way you described, you know, God was taking these things from you, you know, to reveal these things. It gave me a chill, almost made me like tear up a little bit. It's pretty heavy, man.
Yeah, dude, thank you. Yeah. There's times where I was quite mad at the guy, to be honest. You know, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it, man. I work hard. I'm a good dude. Like why is this happening? And, we don't see everything. And I don't try to understand everything anymore, you know, and I think that's a character flaw in me. It's wanting too much control, wanting everything to make sense, always questioning everything. And yeah, honestly, dude, if it all led me to a place where I can be at peace, why would I want to change it?
I agree. Now you're starting this new chapter and you have an amazing future as a commentator. What are you
Thank you.
seeing in the riders today? When you look at Jet and Hayden, Chase, like what is it? What are these guys doing that's really taking this sport to the next level?
That's a complicated,
Yeah.
complicated answer. Um,
But as you mentioned earlier, there's been a change and like the level has been stepped up. Like what what Jet and particularly Jet, but all these guys, what they're doing seems like has never been done before.
well, for sure not. Yeah, I mean, I think Jet, it's such a complicated thing because Jet wouldn't be Jet without um, Eli Tomac or Ryan Dungey or Philip Putto or Stewart, McGrath, Carmichael. All these guys had to be there to get to that point. But I think that Jet is the best all-around rider that we've ever seen. Um, and I think it starts with the way that he sees the track. I think that he literally sees things differently. Some guys, basketball or football, you see guys that every once in a while that come into the league and it's just people talk about that. Like they just see things, they see these angles differently. Um, just the way that Jet, the way that the craziest thing about Jet to me is that he almost always makes the right decision in the heat of the moment. Like you can talk about his technique and how fast he goes and all this, but to just be, and he had some fumbles here and there when he was like 16, 17, tearing his ACL last year. Those things just happen. But in general, like if everything's on the line, like this kid if he's got to make 100 decisions, he's literally going to make 100 right decisions. And I don't know how to quantify that. But the one thing I will say about that entire program, the Lawrence brothers, Dazzy, the family, I love what they're about. Like, I think that it's, from what I've heard about the program, from being around them, I've been around them a little bit, talked to them. You're not going to find a lot of gaps of like everything's intentional. Everything that they're doing is for a purpose. And I think even I was watching a video, I think maybe Red Bull might have done it for Anaheim 1 last year. Their bike setup was off. Jet got like 12th. Hunter was 11th. And I saw them, they came back to the rig and just the way Dazzy is like so chill about it.
Very stoic.
Yeah. And I know that it's tough. I know that it's tough for any rider and they get angry if it doesn't go well. But the way that Jet in particular lets things roll off of him,
Yeah.
I've never seen that for someone.
It's easy to get emotional.
Oh, dude, it's easy to get emotional. Like
you put your life into it.
Yeah, you put everything into it. And it just looks like he's got, I don't know if it was just the way that he was parented or what. But it's just, there's no gaps. There's no holes in the program. And the things that they're doing on the bike now, I don't know. I can't explain it. If I did, I'd probably be doing it. I'd probably still be out there somehow. But in general, it's just been so, and even Chase, Eli sticking around longer. That pack of guys is insane, dude. Like I genuinely have a blast watching those guys ride a dirt bike and, Hayden Deegan, same way. And what's scary is that it's like these guys are the example for the kids that are hucking doubles at MTF right now at 7 years old, right? Like those, imagine what we're creating. Imagine what Jet, Chase, imagine what those guys are creating right now. Yeah. So I don't know what I've seen in the last few years is, I haven't seen a progression like it maybe since James came into the 450 class. It's kind of similar to that. The intensity level, even when I first got on a 450, it was like sprint at the beginning, kind of find your groove in the middle, sprint at the end. But they've able to, what I think Chase does this sometimes, Eli does this sometimes, Jet does this most of the time, is that they found a way for their sprint speed to be like 85% of their true all-out effort. And to me, that is why someone like Jet is so repeatable. Why he can do the same thing that looks incredible over and over and over again is because it's 85%. Everything is slower to him. He's figured out a way to slow everything down.
And he's intelligent enough that he doesn't need to win by 30 seconds.
Oh, no.
He's fine with taking less risk and slowing down.
There's no ego out there. There's no ego out there with Jet. And that's since I saw some ego plays in the 250 class when you're young, but really since he's been in the premier class, so many times out there where he just backs it down when he doesn't have to do it. He's so cautious in the start of the races. He's so cautious. Sometimes like I'll be watching him the first few turns and I'm like, dude, you got to go. And then he's leading by the time you get to the checker, the green flag on the first lap. So just in general, I don't know. I'm probably just babbling at this point, but it has been pretty unreal to watch those guys take the sport to where they have.
It's insane.
Now, and it makes me feel extra comfy. JB and I talk about it all the time, but like being in the booth, it kind of coincided at a perfect time for me because I'm glad I don't look at those guys and I'm like, oh yeah, I could go do that.
Yeah,
I could go do that. I'm really glad I don't. I sleep better at night knowing what those guys are doing.
Seeing how gnarly they are. From your experience as a racer and now a commentator and being so embedded in this sport for so long, what does it take to reach the elite level in this sport to become someone like Jet or Hayden or any of these top guys? What does that take?
Takes a love. I think love of the game. You gotta love the game. It takes an unbelievable amount of determination, and it really, at the end of the day, you have to buy into the lifestyle. Like dirt bikes, it is no job. You will never clock out, ever. Like, there are guys, like, I've even heard Hayden say that when he's not at the track, he doesn't think about dirt bikes. He's awesome. I think Hayden's great. I'm not buying it, dude. Like, 99.9% of the dirt bike riders, like, or athletes in general, man, like, it's a 24/7 job. You care about it like your own child. Like, it's everything to you. And so I think the guys that fall in love with that process, with the lifestyle. I'll give you an example. I was at the Kawasaki team shoot a couple of days ago, and I was watching Chase on the bike, and he went out there, did a few laps before some of our photos, and he came back, and he's like, hey, can you tighten the steering stem? And I'm thinking about maybe doing a little bit of this and that, and we're at a team shoot. Like, we're at a team shoot, and the guy is like testing, like off to the side, right?
He's passionate, man.
Yeah, and he's eyeing up this quad in this one rhythm lane. He does this quad, and he comes back and he's talking to Levi Kitchen, and he's just geeking out on, the face, if you land into the face on this side, on the right side, it throws you a little higher, and I shifted second here. And the way that he was talking about it, like the intensity in which he was talking about it.
Truly loves it.
He loves it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and that, to me, I saw that. I've seen that with Chase before. I know he's like an ultra competitor, but I just thought that was a great example as to why he is as great as he is. It's really difficult to do what these guys have to do on a daily basis since you were 10 years old to reach this level and not love it. You have to. So you have to keep that. And I think it's also a unique thing. I think that because Ricky Carmichael did it this way doesn't mean this guy has to do it this way. I think everybody has to find their lane, and ultimately what that takes is being able to be very honest with yourself, which that is really hard for a lot of people to do, to take true accountability with who they are, with what they're doing, with what they know. A lot of us like to live in these lies that we tell ourselves. It's easy to do. It's not even like a malicious thing that we do. It's just kind of, we're built to survive. I think you got to be really, really honest with yourself. You got to love it.
Love the process. I mean, because nobody sees what happens Monday through Friday when you're grinding. The podium is like 5 minutes. Everything else happens in between, and you have to love it or you're gonna get burnt out. So it makes a lot of sense. Back to your new life as a broadcaster. Where do you see commentating taking you in the next 5 to 10 years?
That is a great question. I like I told you at the start of this interview and talking about my career, I always had a plan for what I was going to do. And I knew roughly, I knew that like I told you, I wanted to be a broadcaster. I want to be the voice of Supercross. I would love if one day nobody really even remembered I raced and I was just the voice of Supercross. I'd be stoked on that. That means to me, that's when I know I succeeded at the job I'm doing now. Right now, I'm just stoked. I love it because I had an inkling that I would, but you never really know. You never really know. And so I'm really passionate about it. I love the guys that I get to work with. I saw you just did an interview with RC. He's been great, man. Like always has something nice to say to me. Like just helping me out. James the same way. Weege, Lee Diffie. Like just being in a room with these guys. Is Jason Thomas as well. It's really special for me. It's a special group to be a part of. So I'm just grateful for that. And really right now, I try to live my life genuinely, like one day at a time. Like I really do. I have a tough time even planning a tee time 2 weeks in advance. That's how committed I am to being. I do. Of course, I would love to be in the main booth one day, calling the races, whenever that happens. But ultimately, I think best thing that I've done since maybe ever, but the best thing that I've done since I got done racing was just surrender control. And I always talked about in my career just doing my best and letting the chips fall where they will. But there was still a part of me that wanted to control that so bad that got mad when it didn't go the way that I did. And right now I'm just trying to be disciplined about, trusting God, trusting that if I stay true to myself, if I help people, leave a positive impact, follow my heart, that it's going to put me in a spot that I'm going to be stoked with one day,
Couldn't have said it better, dude. Thanks. Surrendering control is so hard, but it's probably just in life in general. It's like the most important thing you could do for your peace of mind. Just like obviously being proactive and doing your best at everything you can, but like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And like, no matter what we do, nothing goes according to plan. Life never goes according to plan. So you do your best. You can't control what happens. I think that's a very amazing message to get out there to people. So what are you most excited for with this next chapter of life with commentating? What excites you the most?
What excites me the most? I think more, I love my job, and I think growing in the role and getting better, working hard at it, the process of it. It's kind of the same thing as what I was doing before, preparing during the week, performing on the weekends. I love doing that, and I'm kind of open to where that goes. But I think for me, it's more right now, I'm just enjoying this piece kind of on a personal level. I think I got to a good place pretty quick after I stopped racing. It took some time. There's like some trial and error, but like just getting used to this piece, getting used to not going up and down. And that's kind of finally starting to feel normal. Feeling like I deserve the life that I have, like that's a really difficult thing too, to truly look around and feel like it's a Tuesday. And if I want to go golf, great. If I want to go to the water park with my girlfriend, we're going to the water park. It's like things
Sometimes
like that.
You don't feel like you deserve that.
100% not. And it's just like, I can tell you these things are like surrendering control, right? It's not like one day I just snap my fingers and I completely trust God with all of my heart all the time, right? That I'm a human being and I doubt it. I go back and forth. I go back and forth. That's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, I think I'm just looking forward to some of those. I really geek out on like just the personal transformation and personal growth. And I feel all these things right now kind of shifting and changing in myself, ways that I've always had a really good idea of the ways that I wanted to be and what I thought was right. Like it's always been pretty black and white to me. It's like what's right, and what's wrong. And I kind of feel like I'm turning into the person that I've always wanted to be.
It's amazing.
Um,
You've always chased your potential as a racer. Now you're chasing your potential as a human,
yeah,
which is such an amazing pursuit to be on.
it
That's
is.
cool.
And and I'm incredibly blessed and fortunate to have time to sit there and
Yeah.
most people are
We're on survival mode. And, most of
on
the
survival
population.
mode and they're nonstop, dude, just trying to put food on the table or just to keep it going or send their kids to college and all this stuff. And so that's though I guess what I'll leave you with is I do feel like I have a bit of a responsibility as well to live my life the best way that I can because you can talk about the trials and errors and it was hard for me at times. Ultimately, it's like, dude, I've lived an unbelievable life, and the life that I get to live now, I could have never imagined in my entire life.
And just having even the luxury to have the time and space to contemplate these
Yeah,
things.
100%. Most people never get that opportunity. So it's after years of kind of going back and forth with the why me and all this, it's like I think I owe it to everybody out there that's doesn't have it made like I do, because I'm the product of a lot of opportunities and just being put in a position where I can get to this point. So just trying to do my best with it.
Yeah. I think that leads me perfectly into the last question I have for you is just, if you could say 10-year-old Adam Cianciarulo was sitting across from you, if you could tell that kid one thing, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him?
And I want to tell him a lot. I would want to tell him a lot. I'd give him a hug, I think, man. I really would. Tell him it's going to be fine. I don't know, because I really I wouldn't want anything to go differently. But I would just give the guy, I'd give the guy a hug. That kid was scared out of his mind. Just tell him that it's going to be okay. And that even if he doesn't succeed or whatever, you're still okay. You're still a good dude. It's all right. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I appreciate your time today, buddy.
Dude,
it was
appreciate
really
it a
cool
lot.
to meet you.
Yeah.
Great
Thanks for having me.
conversation. And we'll stay in touch.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Let's do it again soon. We'll get you on the AC and J&B show.
All right. Sounds good, man.
Thank you.
All right. See you, buddy. I want to give a shout out to my amazing sponsor, Rider Justice. There's a lot stacked against us as riders. The unpredictable things that can happen out on the road, and there's a general negative perception of motorcyclists in the courts when something unfortunate happens. Thankfully, there's someone out there who's been fighting for us, like really fighting for over 25 years, and that's Scott O'Sullivan of Rider Justice. Scott is not just a lawyer, he's an advocate for riders. The kind who shows up to rallies, sits on nonprofit boards, gives free legal advice to riders in need, and truly fights for our rights. He launched Rider Justice to stand up for all of us, on the road, in the courtroom, and in our culture. If you've been hurt in a crash, if you've lost someone, or if you just want to know your rights as a rider, go to riderjustice.com.